Hello, this is On Imagination with a Healing Garden. Welcome to PANDO. So I am sending this video out to two groups of people: humble teachers and humble psychologists. These are the psychologists and the teachers who agree with my work. So I need you to listen up. I have a vendetta and I have an agenda, and it's not directed at you. This is 100%. You are exempt from my work. I acknowledge you. I 100% acknowledge that you are humble enough to know and recognize the problem, and you want change, and you're just stuck in a position, and I get that. And I want to very warmly welcome you into PANDO and say, pull up a seat, let's figure out where we can help each other. And I want to make sure you have the tools to get done what you need to get done. But here's a problem that I have. Most teachers and psychologists come from a corrupted tier system that you are just victim to. You know this. That's why you're here. You want something better. Now, that's going to limit what I can give you. That's going to limit my influence. That's going to limit some things. Let's put it this way. We have a few obstacles. We just need to figure out a way around those obstacles so that we all can do the best here. So this is what I want to do. I want to throw all my cards down on the table. I don't like the word teacher. I don't. When I studied the 7th, 8th, and 9th ethic, I learned a real valuable, massive impact that completely changed my perspective that you will learn when you arrive at the 7th, 8th, and 9th also. When you understand power economics, you will look at the 7th, 8th, and 9th ethic, just like I did. And you will make the same logical conclusions that I did, because this is what you learn at the 7th, 8th, and 9th ethic. It's that moment when you realize, oh, by calling myself a teacher or a psychologist, or even embracing the term authority, I am violating and corrupting somebody's self-authority, and I don't have the ethical right to do that to anybody. That if I truly want to make a difference, I'm going to have to humble myself to the bottom where I can actually empower people. And in order to do that, I have to meet them on equal footing, 6th ethic. And in order to do that, they're going to have to be greeted as their equal, which means it's unethical to use the term teacher or psychologist. You're going to have to give them up because it's unethical. It's why I am just on an imagination. And I will always be just on an imagination, because it's unethical to lord anything over anyone else. And you learn that at the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th ethic. So you're here because you agree. Now, I need you to stand down. And the reason why is because there are so many toxic people in your profession that we can't tell the difference. We don't know who to trust. So we are looking for the people to trust. The humble teachers and the humble psychologists are the ones to trust, but we can't tell you from the narcissists. To be blunt, there are too many people. It's corrupted. Authority is a magnet for narcissism. It's a magnet for them. And at least 75% of teachers and psychologists are narcissists seeking the power. So we need a way that we can tell you from the abusers. And I'm going after the abusers. I will never forget doctors who insist to be called by their first name. Start there. Give us your first name. No Mr., no Mrs., no doctor. What's your name? We will know who you are. A lot of people are afraid that they won't get respect, and that's really what this is about. is they need to maintain control over a classroom. Well, let me tell you something. Control over a classroom comes from respect, which is earned through respect. It is actually something that is studied at the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th ethic. You have to first learn accountability, which you will not do until you complete the 5th trial. You're here, which means you've already learned it. In fact, every single humble teacher and humble psychologist has already passed the 5th ethic. They've learned accountability. And already you stand out. The next thing that we're looking at is equal footing. This is the next thing you learn at the 6th ethic. Equal footing is the recognition that you are no better than anybody else. And I have seen precious few teachers who actually exercise this. They stand on equal footing with their students. So the next one is the reception. It is actually being open to listen. It is the absolute, it's a combination of the second ethic and 7th ethic. But in music theory, the 2nd and the 7th are also highly related. And I'm going, whoa, the circle of fifths just showed up. This is cool. So pardon my musical physics frequency enthusiasm. So at the 7th ethic, you develop this mindset of embracing, or it's this, I'm open to receive. It is a point of self-reflection. It's realizing self-value. It's literally being the receiver. So there's a lot of silent listening. It's ideal for the student mind. In fact, I refer to the 2nd and the 7th ethic as the student mind. It's when you learn how to be quiet and observe. And then at the 8th ethic, you learn how to transmit, so that at the 9th, you learn human connection and circuitry. This is power economics. After learning power economics, you learn physics, which is emotional fluidity at 10th. And then at the 11th, you learn logical navigation. It's really cool. Anyway, when you combine these things all together, you realize that you get respect at the 9th ethic. The 9th ethic is when you learn respect. You learn how to give respect. 4th ethics, 3rd ethics are obsessed with the 9th ethic, but they haven't done the work to get it. Bottom line, you don't get respect until you learn accountability, until you learn equal footing, until you learn how to observe and receive and transmit with effective communication. Then you learn how to give respect. And that is only when you get it. Respect must be given first. And that is what you learn at the 7th, 8th, and 9th ethic, is that in order to give, you must, in order to receive, you must give first. It's an order of operation with mathematics and physics, and there is no other way to bypass this. So the question now is, how do you get a classroom filled with children to respect you? By respecting them. The unethical teacher will abuse them and enforce it. This is why you should not be teaching before at least the 9th ethic. Because the very first thing you need to learn is absolutely how to give respect. Now, I'm going to be teaching all of this. I'm going to be doing a course. Now, there's no difference between learning and teaching in psychology. Learning is mental health. And this is where these subjects never should have been split up. As you learn the 12 ethics, you start to realize how much physics and economics and human connection and business and networking and teaching and learning and psychology are the same subject. And you're going, why are these divided? No wonder why everything's messed up. And I have been trying for a while to figure out how to deliver this stuff to you. So I'm going to be doing a special course just for humble teachers and humble psychologists, where I'm going to be teaching you this material. Now, I'm going to be blunt. I don't have any peers. I don't. I came from the same educational system that Euclid and Pythagoras came from. I was smarter than Einstein when I was 15 years old. I don't have peers. All of my work is checked with logic, which is so good that math just shows up. When you're that good at logic, math just shows up. And it was so perfect and pure and correct that the physics just showed up next. Because when you get the math that accurate, the physics just falls into place. It's like the physics does the logical checks and balances for you, and it just shows up. If it was wrong, the physics wouldn't have shown up. And because the physics showed up, the chemistry and then the biology showed up. So my work is checked by Mother Nature. I will say again, I have no peers. I see this stuff so clearly that it's common sense for me. I didn't study it. I didn't have to. It's common sense. This is the stuff I learned from the ancient Greek educational system. So I'm going to put together a curriculum for you. Now, here's the concern that I have. It's not really a concern. It's the next obstacle that we need to problem solve and figure out a way around it. I give you this information. You have it. Great. I'm glad you have it. I want you to have it. So here's the question. How can we utilize this information now so that you guys can make the most of it? And that's where I'm going to probably put together a think tank where you tell me what your situation is so we can find a way around it. Because there are certain things with interacting with the subconscious mind that must be taken into account. Now, I love the book, The Wave. That was a great example of a really influential teacher who did not know much about the subconscious mind. And as a result, he decided to do something that led into something very dangerous because he did not know what he was doing with the subconscious mind. And that's my problem. People don't know what they're doing with the subconscious mind, and then they do something, and that's the last thing I want to see. You need to understand how the subconscious mind works if you're going to step into one. Dangerous business if you're doing that without knowing, which is why I really have a problem with unethical psychologists. You don't stand into a subconscious mind until you know what you're doing, because there's buttons and switches and gears all over inside of this thing, and you hit the wrong button and things don't go well. And the problem is you're in a position of trust. The more I teach people this stuff, the more they realize, oh shit, the damage I have done. I was one of them. And then you have to answer for it at the seventh ethic, which means you need to be real solid in your first, second, third ethic in order to handle what's coming at the seventh. Because then you start to do the logical math and you start to realize the damage you have caused. And then you've got to answer for that. That's coming. So you've got to do the work at the first, second, third ethic to be prepared for the seventh. This is an order of operations that is a highly advanced chain reaction science caused from physics, math, logic. And as soon as you start feeding the brain logic, oh my God, we have diabetes. Our mental health is just pure diabetes. We're just eating a lot of white bread and we're gorging ourselves on empty nutrients for the mind. And we are starved. So the minute I start feeding people logic, their brains just turn on and it eats and eats and eats and it consumes. And then their brains just start to do the math. They start to calculate all on their own. That's supposed to happen. The problem is that sets off a chain reaction that you've got to be prepared for. Because when the chain reaction starts up and you're not prepared for it, you end up catatonic. You end up catatonic. So it's really important that I provide you with the right order of operations, because as soon as your brain starts doing the calculations and figuring shit out all on its own, it's off. I don't know those order of operations yet. Aside from telling you to follow the 12 ethics, that's all I've got. I'm still working it out, which is why I've put this off for so long. Because of everybody here, psychologists already have the mind for psychology. So it's going to take a lot less work to feed you this information than anybody else. Teachers already have the mind for understanding teaching. That's why you're a teacher. So as soon as I start feeding you this stuff, it's going to start clicking into place. And there is no difference between a psychologist and a teacher. You're the same thing. You're the same thing. The agenda of a teacher or a psychologist should be a sage. Socratic method, a little bit of guidance, and you just stand back and let them go. I have 4 rules that I follow, and I strongly recommend you follow the same ones. The first one is if they ask a question, then ask a question back. Socratic method. The second one, if they make a statement, ignore them. There's nothing you can say. Statements are not for anything. If they make a statement, say nothing. If they attack you, humble them. If they attack you, humble them. in 3 words or less. Fourth, if they're frustrated, give them a quest. Give them a quest. The quest will allow them to steer and direct their frustration strategically where they need it to go to feel better. A proper teacher, a proper psychologist, this is all they would be doing. It is imperative that the human mind be allowed and be free to do its own calculations and machinations. Imagine a subconscious mind, and it is a machine. And most subconscious minds, 98% of them, are idle. Your job is to ignite it and turn the engine on. But that's not what's going on. Teachers and psychologists today are taught to crank the handle. So you're walking around just doing the cranking. So as soon as you stop cranking, they go idle again. That is what the educational system and psychology has succeeded in doing. Is you had to manually crank this massive engine by hand for 18 years. And as soon as you stopped, their brain never did anything because you did not do what the brain required, which was ignite it. You needed a key. So the goal, the agenda, is to switch the educational system from the hand crank over to the automatic engine. Now, Mother Nature has us born with this, but the ego of the narcissist immediately interferes with it. And that's the problem. You're going to have 3 types of students. You're going to have the student who's fine. You just need to leave it alone and let the engine purr. You're going to have the people who are going to need a little bit of ignition and then just set them off. And you're going to have the others where you're going to have to do the cranking, you're going to have to teach them, and they may or may not make it back. Being able to determine which student you're dealing with is going to be part of your job. It's absolutely part of it. I am in the process of building the Healing Garden franchise. And that's going to be a location that's going to require teachers on site. And that is one door that is going to be open to your future, is the Healing Garden franchise. We are looking to release those in 2025. We are looking, are you okay? All right. We are looking to have them set up with about, well, there's going to be 3 tiers. We're going to have the smaller ones, which is 1 to 3 people on staff. And then we're going to have the medium ones, which are going to be about 5 people on staff. And then we're going to have the super centers. And what these are is really a kindergarten room for adults that does field trips, literally kindergarten rooms for adults. And it's going to be triadic healing infused right into there so that you nurture these 3. And it's going to be very, very deliberate using all of these methods and practices. So that is one door that we do have available open. As far as how you can implement this into your own U.S. government educational system, I don't know. If you have any ideas, I am absolutely open to hear what you have to say. What I need, most importantly, is for you guys to stand down, just to show people that we can trust you. If you value the trust, show us who you are. Do something a narcissist would never do. Stand down. Have us call you by your first name. That's the first one. That's a big one. Empower. Teach your students how to not need you. That's it. That is a big one. Make it clear that you are there to teach them how to fish, not to be fed. Make that clear, because that's what I'll be teaching everybody here. You can trust a teacher. You can trust somebody who's ethical if they teach you how to fish, if they teach you how to be independent. That's it right there. We are looking for independence, empowerment. We are looking for first names. We're looking for respect. We are looking for people who preserve our power of choice. That's a big one, because that absolutely ensures our ability to choose and not choose, which is our freedom. So we're looking for people who give us our freedom and preserve it. These are things that narcissists will never consent to. And that will tell us precisely who the guys are that we can trust and who the people are who we cannot. And that will allow us to hold on to something. Show us who you are so we can trust you. Thank you so much. May the kindest of words always find you.